Welcome to In This Together, a joint fundraising event for the United and Lutheran Campus Ministries. I'm Reverend Margaret Propp, chaplain for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada at the University of Calgary and Mount Royal University.
And I am Reverend Tim Nethercott, chaplain for the United Church of Canada at the University of Calgary, Mount Royal University, and Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
We are speaking live on location from the beautiful Faith and Spirituality Center here at the University of Calgary. Sometimes when there's no pandemic, this room can be filled with 100 people. That's probably against the rules, though.
With us today, masked and or socially distanced, are our ministry team of Simon Bondar, Enoch Mock, and Andrew Lee. Andrew's email is Potato Lee. Anyway, yeah, you should know that. And Richard Betts of St. Andrew's Centre. St. Andrew's is a ministry of the United Church of Canada and a major supporter of the campus ministry, as well as other youth and young adult ministries in Calgary. Richard is behind the camera. Also off screen are Pamela Giles and Joe Stolley of Faithful Servants, our fund development consultants, and we're really glad to have them here. We are in this together, meaning that the United and Lutheran Campus Ministries are in this ministry together.
The Lutheran and United Churches started the chaplaincy here together at the University of Calgary back in the 1960s, when it was still a satellite campus of the University of Alberta. We've been here together since the beginning.
One of the stories I love to tell is that when I first arrived here in the chaplaincy, our United Church mailbox number was 001. And the Lutherans' mailbox was, guess it, 002. That's how long we've been here together. Our office was over in another building. But we were here right when the whole thing started. You'd think the president or the provost of the university or somebody like that would have the mailbox 001. And that's funny. But the really funny part is that the mailbox was about 6.5 feet off the floor, and I'm about 5'4" with shoes on. I couldn't even see into the darned mailbox. If I jumped, I could usually see if it was empty or not. And the most dangerous thing that I've done since becoming a clergyman is that I would jump and reach my arm in as far as I could to try to grab whatever was in there. Once in a while there was a check. Woohoo! But usually it wasn't a check. Usually it was something like a sales catalog for robes or chasubles. I could have broken my arm any number of times retrieving Roman Catholic liturgical supply catalogs.
Tim and I have been working in partnership to build the ministry since my arrival 8 years ago. Technically, we are separate ministries. There is a Lutheran campus ministry and a United Church campus ministry. There is a Lutheran Oversight Committee and a United Church Oversight Committee. There is a Lutheran bank account and a United Church bank account. It's all separate, and we will continue in this way. There are no ideas of becoming a single organization. This is important to our churches because we are proud of our church communities, their separate identities, and their long histories.
But two separate ministries doesn't make that much sense to students who are living in a post-denominational world. They're not aware of our denominations. It's just confusing to them. To students, we're just Margaret and Tim. So on the church side, if you will, we are separate ministries. On the side that the students and the university see, we act as one ministry. We hire separately, but we hire the same team of students. We develop and conduct programs together. We dream and vision.
We are truly in this together, that is, in this ministry together. Our churches are struggling. Ministry is hard. It doesn't matter which denomination. It doesn't matter where you are located, what kind of ministry you are involved in. Ministry is hard. There isn't a semester we start when we aren't a little fearful. Things happen so fast on campus. What will happen this semester? Who will show up? But it's a whole lot less scary with your soul friend and your theological partner on the other end of the Zoom call. We are always building community, and it's a whole lot easier when you start with a community of two.
I love the Lutheran Church. They have excellent clergy, like my friend Margaret. I love Lutheran theology. I love the theology of Martin Luther. I love the Lutheran liturgies.
I love the United Church. I admire their activism, their restlessness, and their openness.
We are in this together because we can share resources and be the best possible stewards of the funds provided by our churches and you, our beloved donors. We are in this together because together we make a more full expression of the Christian faith. We are in this together because together we are smarter, more creative, more resilient, and more sustainable. The Lutheran and United Churches are in this ministry together because doing ministry together gives us courage.
We almost called this event In the Same Boat. That would have been apt because the image of a boat has historically been one of the main symbols of the church. Churches now are more round in design, but for 20 centuries they were mostly been long and narrow with wooden roofs and ceilings. So that if you are standing in a sanctuary, for example, if you go to Knox United Church, you look up at the vast ceiling, and it's very much like you are looking down into the hull of an enormous boat. The idea is that your particular church community is in this boat together. Outside, the waves may be crashing, the wind may be howling, the sails may be snapping, but you and your community are safe on this journey, together in the same boat.
Yeah. The image of the boat as the community of the church comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew. This is an engraving called Jesus Asleep During the Storm from the book Bibel in Bildern, meaning Bible in pictures. It's an engraving made in 1851 by a fellow named Julius von Crossfeld. Take a look at this while I tell you a Bible story. Gather round, children. What do you see in this picture? You might notice the angry sky, the chaotic waves coming over the side of the boat. On the left, one of the very muscular disciples strains at the rudder. The mast is at an odd angle. It's broken. That's bad. Just to the left of the mast, one of the disciples is trying to lift the sail, and if you look under his right arm between his elbow and his body, you can just barely see a face filled with the shore of the Sea of Galilee. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Peace, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?"
Notice that line. Why are you so afraid? And do you still have no faith? It's interesting. Faith is contrasted with fear. So the opposite of faith is not unbelief. The opposite of fear is faith is fear. So it appears that faith has something to do with courage. Courage is not fearlessness. Fearlessness is simply a kind of foolishness. But courage is a quality of the heart such that we continue, that we persist, we persevere in spite of fear. We feel the fear, but we move ahead in spite of it. It's not that there is nothing to be afraid of, or that there is just a great deal to be afraid of, because the world is a dangerous place. Here we are in this little boat. The ocean is wide and our boat is so small. The waves are breaking and the wind is howling and the rocks are looming. We may be destroyed. Nonetheless, we have faith. We take courage and we continue. The courage that is described as faith is that in that moment we say yes, even when there's trouble. Yes, I am afraid, but nevertheless I continue on.
We do not continue on alone. There are lots of things that I can do on my own. I can live alone, I can work and study and watch YouTube videos till midnight all on my own. But there are things I cannot do on my own. I cannot face the storm on my own. I can't do life on my own. I need my community, the community of my family, the community of my friends, and for many of us here tonight, the community of the church. We are here in this little boat. The ocean is wide. Our boat is so small. The waves are breaking. The wind is howling. We are too close to shore, and the rocks are looming. But I am not alone. I live in God's world with my community, and that community gives me courage. Margaret and I give one another courage to conduct this ministry, and you give us courage to conduct it as well.
And we are in this together. With our student community, this pandemic is like being at sea in a storm that has hit us. And with the courage, we can get through it. If that is true for us, it is yet more true for students. Graduating high school with no graduation, starting classes with no classes. What will I do for a job? When will I see my friends? When will this end? What a time to start adulting. And as we see in the media, this is already a generation with high levels of anxiety, meaning high levels of fear. So much pain amongst young adults. Social anxiety is perhaps the worst. It cuts you off from others, it isolates you. That's where so many young adults are already. And then the pandemic on top of all that.
And yet every week, several times a week, our communities gather to share the stuff of our lives and overcome fear because we are in this boat together. That's a big part of what we do in the campus ministry. We often sit in a circle and share our stories, and in the process, we overcome our fears by being vulnerable with each other. I don't know why I am afraid. I don't know why I'm afraid to tell you who I am. Maybe it's because I need so much to be loved that I can hardly bear to risk it. Maybe I'm afraid you'll reject me when me is all I have. So much safer to do life on my own.
But nevertheless, we need to tell our stories and share our lives. And as we do, the courage comes, faith comes. We become a community and understand that we are not alone. Thanks be to God.
Amen.
Well, it's not always easy to imagine what campus ministry looks like on the ground. For some of you, campus ministry was a very formative, central part of your post-secondary experience, and you have a deep and long history with campus ministry. For others, you may have never heard about campus ministry, and you have tuned in because you know Tim or myself, or are connected to one of our other dedicated volunteers or churches. However it is that you are now watching this event and taking the time, we thank you. We hope that you will go away from this evening with a better sense of what we are doing on the 3 campuses in Calgary and why we feel that this ministry is so important and unique. Now, if you ask any chaplain what campus ministry looks like, you will get just as many different responses. Even year to year, depending on what the administration allows and what the needs are of the community, and especially on the funding that's made available, campus ministry will look different. Fortunately for Calgary, and through the funding of generous donors like yourself and the wider church bodies, we have been able to rely on steady financial support to provide consistent, top-notch programs for students year after year in Calgary. In the video to follow, you will see the many programs campus ministry has been providing to students. Of course, these photos capture what we did before the pandemic so that you can get a feel of what has been happening and the vision that campus ministry has in providing an open Christian community. We'll fill you in later on what programming looks like during the pandemic now, because clearly we have had to adapt. But you will see the ministry's priority in proclaiming the gospel and using words when necessary. Hospitality is the means in which our campus ministry has provided outreach to students struggling with mental health, lack of community, hunger, financial strains, and spiritual support. In the same way, the church has broken bread together to feed, sustain, and prepare those who gather around the table. Our ministry has been feeding students with wholesome, nutritional meals as our central outreach program through our Drum, Dine, and Discuss program. This is done through the drum circles, the simple suppers, and the conversation circles. You will also see some of the other programs that focus on equipping students in their faith through dirty theology, food and faith, campus ministry retreats at Kyriakis, and worship. Partnerships are key in providing the expansive and quality programming that you will see, that you can take a look at on our web pages. Some examples of this would be the Women's Circle that we do through the partnership with the Christian Reformed Chaplaincy, and our partnership with Reverend Tim Ray, who farms northeast of Calgary near Arikana, where we've taken students for farm trips so that they can learn about the regenerative impact agriculture plays in caring for the environment. Through a partnership with the Students' Union this year and with the Faith and Spirituality Center here, a renowned program called Compassion Cultivating Training out of Stanford that our colleague Reverend Duran Harris, who is doing her PhD here at the U of C, has been able to provide this 8-week course to students for a minimal cost. Now, this item, you too can also bid on for this 8-week course through her private practice, which Duran has so graciously offered to our auction this year.
I was just looking at our campus ministry team calendar. On March 9th this year, which is just a few months ago, although it seems like years, we were getting indications that things would change because of this virus. How inconvenient. We had plans. We were hiring a new outreach team. We were planning to start a dinner church. We had bought a freezer. It's back there in the room off to the side. And we had invested in lots of food prep equipment, which is hidden down in the island here in the kitchen. And the big plan was to have a team here at the FSC baking bread on this counter and feeding people all day long and breaking bread with people all day long. Ministry is about making friends, and we were set to make a whole lot of new friends. We had good plans, and now we have to change them. It had already been a year or 2 years marked by significant changes. Our office and drop-in center at U of C had changed location for the second time in 2 years. The office and drop-in center at MRU had also changed. SAIT, thankfully, was looking about the same. We were working with Art Kung, the Pentecostal chaplain there. Art, like all good Pentecostal folks, lives with his heart wide open and was holding down the fort for us in the drop-in center. Sarah, the interfaith coordinator at SAIT, was doing a great job promoting the heck out of our labyrinth and drumming program. But SAIT was the exception. With the change in provincial governments, universities' budgets had been slashed. We rely heavily on partnerships with university staff, and staff at U of C and Mount Royal were being cut left and right. And then this damnable virus. As I say, on March 9th, we met to revise our food handling and sanitation practices. Surely we would be able to continue if we were careful enough. We spent much of our time at the office cleaning surfaces and keyboards, trying to stay one hockey stick away from each other. We learned to stop touching our faces. We tried anyhow. Then on March 13th, the U of C canceled classes. MRU and SAIT canceled classes on the 16th. On the 20th, our beautiful new office at U of C was closed. Facility staff appeared dressed for a biological emergency. They were wiping everything down with some sort of sticky antiviral goo. If you touched a doorknob, you'd have this goo on your hands and on your clothes, and they'd follow you and wipe it down again with goo. There was goo everywhere. By March 18th, we were getting used to working at home. We tested our first online program. It was interesting, lots to learn about Zoom. First, we did the simple supper online, then the women's circle, and then the drum circle under the name Fun with Found Sound. And we have found that with enough time spent face-to-face online, it feels as if you're still meeting in person. Yes, we get weary of Zoom. Yes, online meetings are tedious. It's like breathing through a straw. But if you do enough of it, it works pretty much like face-to-face community. We worked through the summer. It seemed like a great time to take holidays, of course, but what the heck would you do with a holiday? Stay home in front of a screen? You may as well work, which is also staying at home in front of a screen, except that you get to talk to people. So we soldiered on and stayed in this together, as in online together. As the pandemic progressed, it became clear that we had the beginnings of a new student leadership team. But what to do with them? Food. Food is increasingly important in young adult ministry. It's always been important, of course. Young people need to eat and love to eat and will destroy as many pizzas as you can throw down. But something is going on with this generation of people aside from the usual love of food. Millennials born between 97 and 2012 are acutely aware that our relationship to food says a great deal about us. There's all of the ethics around agriculture and the business of how food finds its way to us. There's how we choose to eat and the ethics of how we choose to eat. Vegan, vegetarian, omnivore. Consider who to eat with. Who do we eat with? A question of vital interest to Jesus and the early Christian community. One of the lovely things that is happening with young adults is that they care deeply about food and everything having to do with food. Richard, show us that next image. So with our new leadership cohort, we started a new kind of food ministry, an online cooking session called Simple Chefs. Each week through the summer, one adult chooses a favorite recipe. Next slide, Richard. Thank you. The list of ingredients goes out to participants who do their own shopping and prep and come join us on Zoom, where the person who proposed the recipe leads in a cooking class. It's a lot of work. The whole leadership team of 5 gets involved. As I say, if you Zoom enough, it's almost like face-to-face community. So we are finding, and it was actually another chaplain, Sandra Brask, our Baha'i chaplain here at U of C, that put it this way, that you can, it was the Anglican chaplain. Yeah, Carmen Meyer, right. It was Carmen Meyer who put it this way, that you can keep a community together via Zoom, but it's really hard to introduce new people to a community via Zoom. So I was thrilled when one of my favorite human beings checked back in with us after a number of years. Veronica Kilyanova from Israel, from Ukraine via Israel. I think Russia might be in there somewhere too. A profound, candid, and endlessly engaging person, Veronica joined us at Simple Chefs and taught us a baking class. We learned how to make berry crumble. And here's Veronica.
Hi, my name is Veronica. I have been involved with campus ministry for past 9 or 10 years. It was the enticing rhythmical drum sounds that got me started with the campus ministry. In the beginning, though, I was hesitant to join their programs. I viewed organized religious as unwelcoming, restrictive, and closed-minded. But Tim busted all my expectations, preconceptions, and expectations. I never had met a more open-minded and welcoming community. I participated in their hikes, retreats, tea times, discussions, circles, and suppers. It was my first real introduction to faith and the church. The FSC was a safe zone in the ever loud and chaotic university campus. When I needed rest, I would just come along and hang out, have some tea, and chat with others that were also attracted to the safe and welcoming space of the FSC. This experience led me to join a choir at St. David's Church right across the road from the university. I'm an Angels, and I met so many other fantastic and welcoming and awesome people through that. I'm very grateful to university ministry for opening my eyes. On a deeper note, in the past year of COVID lockdown and restrictions, events offered by this ministry kind of saved my year, I will say. They provided much needed community and support and structure to my week. And actually my favorite was Simple Chef, Simple Supper. We got to learn amazing recipes. Some of them, like Margaret taught Japanese dishes. I've never tried making Japanese dishes. And I loved it, and it was a highlight of my week over the summer. So please, bid on the items or just donate to keep this amazing community going. The community that does God's work, welcoming people of all faiths or no faith, and creating safe space for students, no matter what.
I know you're jealous of my hat and you wish that this hat were in the auction. It's my sweetheart's hat, which I borrowed to spice things up a bit. Our campus ministry has two spheres of activity. First of all, we provide chaplaincy services, Margaret, to two campuses, U of C and Mount Royal, while the United Church has an office at SAID as well. Margaret and I are chaplains. What is a chaplain, you might ask? It's a good question, and lots of people ask that question. If people remember MASH, I'll say, well, do you remember Father Mulcahy? And people go, oh, yeah, okay, that's a chaplain. All right. Well, basically, a chaplain is a minister who works in a public institution rather than in a church building. Seaports have chaplains, cruise ships have chaplains, military units have chaplains. Military chaplains are called padre. My dad used to call me padre. He got a big kick out of that. Hospitals have chaplains, and universities have chaplains as well. Universities don't have to have chaplains, but they usually do. Historically, chaplains were somewhat outside or beside the structure of the institution, sort of parallel to it. Being outside of the institution, the chaplain can do things that other people cannot, like speak truth to power. If you're not afraid that your boss can fire you, you can tell him the truth, tell him or her the truth. So a chaplain can speak truth to power because the structure isn't the boss, or to deal with a crisis like a death that is not clearly someone else's job, or to advocate for an individual or a group with a complaint that's not being heard by the structures. These are the traditional roles of chaplains. Over the last 20 years, there's been a renewed awareness of chaplaincy at universities around the world. Universities have discovered that religion is not going away. There was a time in the 1960s to about 2000 when the secularization hypothesis reigned. According to this sociological assumption, the world would become more secularized as it modernized. And I think we can observe that that is partly true, but only partly true. Religion has reemerged as a player in public life, and students who are increasingly more like customers of the university demand that spirituality be addressed in their campus life. So over the past 20 years, university chaplaincy has emerged as one of the main pressure points in regard to religion in public life. So it's a very interesting sphere to work in. All three of these the campuses we serve have invested in multi-faith centers, building up their chaplaincy team, recruiting chaplains of various faiths, constructing prayer and meditation and drop-in centers for religiously affiliated or spiritually curious students. They've also hired significant staff teams to conduct multi-faith work as well. At U of C, for instance, we have over 20 chaplains representing many faith groups. So the first sphere of activity for me and Margaret is to provide chaplaincy services, now including multi-faith education as well. And this category, multi-faith, ironically, includes the category of non-faith as well. So Margaret and I, like all the other chaplains, are here to serve our own communities, but certainly also to support multi-faith education programming and spirituality programming for people of no particular faith background. The Lutheran and United Churches, for those of you listening who are not familiar with our communities, are amongst the most open of Christian faith communities. So the first sphere in which Margaret and I work is chaplaincy services. But the second sphere in which we work is to build spiritually based communities for students in our open Christian community. It's the term we use. Open Christian community means that the boundaries of the community have to do with values rather than with beliefs. If you're willing to build a community with Christian values, you're welcome regardless of your beliefs. And the question of Christian values is pretty simple, because in the teaching of our churches, and we believe in the teaching of Jesus, the main value, so much the central value, is love. So if you are willing to learn to love and be loved, you're welcome in our community. We do our best to serve everybody, regardless of their faith tradition or absence of a faith tradition. And this is not just an idea, it's a reality for us. Our community has included practicing Jews, practicing Muslims, practicing sick people, as well as very vigorous atheists and people who just want to be friends. Every United or Lutheran chaplaincy operates in this first sphere of chaplaincy services. Most also build community with students. The difference with our campus ministry is that we hire a team of young adults who do the outreach to other young adults. Now, in a moment, we will cut to a video tour we made of the Faith and Spirituality Center here at U of C. But first, we'll show you where we are at Mount Royal. Richard, that image of Mount Royal. Thank you. This is the west gate in the main building at Mount Royal University. You can see one of my chalk signs on the sidewalk there. I spend a lot of time on my hands and knees at all three campuses in all weathers in February, drawing chalk signs. There's a Facebook page at MRU where people post rants and raves about MRU. And I got a kick out of a thread on that page from a bunch of students declaring that dude with the beret down on his hands and knees making chalk signs at Mount Royal was the coolest thing at Mount Royal. And the thread went back and forth. And I got a glimpse of it before it disappeared. Anyway, I meet a lot of students that way, crawling around on my hands and knees in the middle of winter. Just inside this door that you can see is our meditation room. Beautiful place. To the left is the Student Union building where we do most of our programs in partnership with the Students' Union there. Straight ahead and to the right through this door are our two offices, or rather one office and one drop-in room. And behind that is another beautiful room with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out on a garden that is also a chaplaincy space. These spaces are heavily used by Muslim students in particular who pray 5 times a day. Richard, the next image, please. Yes, thanks. And this is the Irene Lewis Atrium at SAIT. Our drop-in center is on the 2nd floor, one floor above that. Above this image in the top left of the image that you see there on the screen. And our 2 prayer spaces are on the 3rd floor overlooking this atrium. And this atrium is where we prefer to do drum circles. It's right beside the library, but we've gotten away with it so far. And now, Richard, the video grand tour of the Faith and Spirituality Center at U of C, followed by the irrepressible Simon Bondock with an auction showcase. Hi, I'm Tim Nethercott, a chaplain at University of Calgary, Mount Royal, and SAIT here with my friend Richard. Behind the camera, we're outside the front, the main entrance to the Faith and Spirituality Center here at U of C. We control 3 spaces, massive spaces here at the university. There's a room over here. And this is our main drop-in center. It's a pluralism center, meaning it involves moving beyond the acknowledgement of differences to understanding, action, and respect to build a better world. When I describe to people what pluralism is, I say it's being curious about the other, whoever the other is. And we'll just head inside here. The place is dressed up for Halloween at the moment. You'll notice the ghost on the floor, the pumpkin-y ghost on the floor. Behind Richard here now is the main staff area. There's nobody here right now during the pandemic, and it's after hours. There's several staff people who work there. And we'll come in through this way. Very important. Food is very important to young adult ministry, and this is our kitchen. There's no stove and no oven, but there is everything else, and we have all kinds of appliances down under here to replicate the behavior of a stove or an oven. And these rooms are named after many of the chaplains. One of the most amusing of which is the prop pantry, named after our colleague Margaret Prop, whom you will meet at this fundraiser. We've forgotten the code, but in here we have, the campus ministry has its own freezer, and it's filled with soup, which we cannot remove from the freezer because we put it in the bottom and it froze. So the drop-in space is here. Usually there's a number of tables, and when there's no pandemic, there will be 5, 10, 15, 20 students in here. You can't really get a sense of the space without being here in full daylight. This is a magnificent place, built during the Olympics with literally floor, not to ceiling, but floor to roof windows. So it's a spectacular view. Small room over here, and then a tiny room here, which is the Nethercott meeting space. So I'm proud of this little room. And then the pluralism meeting room, it's all high tech and everything. We've got all the gizmos here. Well, that's the Faith and Spirituality Center.
Oh, hello everyone, and we are live back again with the showcase, coming to you from Mohkinstsis on Treaty 7 territory and the Region 3 of the Métis Nation of Alberta. And let me just give you a really quick update on our total here. I just gotta pull it up very quickly. Do you mind with me? I do apologize, but it's looking like it's raising up on my screen here, and we are at $10,776. That we're almost halfway, folks. So keep on going to campusministry.ca to see what we have here and much more. Now, let's get started with what we have in showcase. All right, so first off, ooh, it's heavy. We have wine from Vin Styles in Kensington. Beautiful wines here. We have the Ken Wright Cellars Pinot Noir, Lombardy Champagne, and Chateau de Ferrand 2015. Beautiful French? I'm not sure. But beautiful wines nevertheless. And it comes with another bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon? No, not really. We kind of have to open it because it's actually accessories for your wine. Isn't that really cool? $215 value, and you can get it at campusministry.ca. Next, we have something really homey now and really special. We have a tea cozy. I didn't know what a tea cozy was. I don't know. We don't have these in the Philippines. But a tea cozy is what keeps your tea kettle warm. This is handmade from the Finnish tradition given to us by Stephen and Susan Maunula. Stephen is the former treasurer of Lutheran Campus Ministries, and Susan used to work at the University of Calgary in Student Accessibility Services. So along with that finished craft of the tea cozy, we have beer steins. This looks really cool. I bet this will taste good with your beer. $120 value on campusministry.ca. Next, I'm very excited for this because this took 3 days to make and I made like 30 pounds. And so if this doesn't get any bids, I will be disappointed. But it is my homemade kimchi. And this is like sauerkraut, but I guess, it tastes better to me. Like, it's garlicky, it's spicy, it's sweet. I made sure that this tasted good for y'all to bid on. $20 value. You better get into it. Next, from Air Miles, we have the Bose speakers and the Beats earphones. Those come together and they come from Air Miles. And beautiful stuff, high quality, especially if you're a little bit hard of hearing. This is perfect because it blasts in the ear. $210 value. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. 2 more things, yeah? Next is the Wooden Noah's Ark. Let me pick this up. So Noah's Ark has animals in it too, but I'm just gonna show you the ark itself. So you put the animals. Oh, so I'm so sorry, it keeps falling off. But yeah, you put the animals in here, and this was made by. There it is. It was made by Lisa Schnarf from Nazareth Lutheran Church in Standard, Alberta. Shout out rural Alberta. But there's maintenance included, there's animals included. So you could teach a Sunday school story with the Noah's Ark. 30 seconds left, I promise. I'm almost done here. This is a kid robot for Swatch and collectible figurine. $60 value. It's a really cute gift for Christmas. Christmas is coming up. Think of your grandchildren. Think of your children. So you better get onto it. Campusministry.ca, and let's get there. Let's get in this together. Now let's go to Margaret.
Well, our central weekly program that we have come to know, that the campus ministry has come to be known for, is the Drum, Dine, Discuss. You'll hear from Tim later on in this evening the role music plays in our ministry, but I'm sharing with you our Dine and Discuss portion. So many of us has become acutely aware of how much eating together means, especially with loved ones. If you have not been able to get together with those loved ones in this past 7 months or longer to share that common meal, you'll know how much it means. In the story of the disciples in the storm, what all three accounts in Matthew, Mark, and John share is that they all took place after the feeding of the many who gathered around the small offerings of 5 loaves and 2 fish. This small offering, according to John, comes from a young boy. It may not look like much, but Jesus assures his disciples that there will be enough. And we know that in the end, there was more than enough. It is in following this miracle, as witnesses and participants of being provided for, that the disciples enter the boat and encounter the storm. We have had the privilege for the last 8 years to provide students with a hot meal, soup and bread, simple supper, we call it, every week during the 2 semesters of the school year. For the first 5 years, this was only done at the University of Calgary, but in the last 3 years, we have included Mount Royal University. Although we have this beautiful facility here at the Faith and Spirituality Center, as you heard from Tim, you see that there is no stove or oven. So we've managed to use the humble offerings of an electric roaster and a bread machine to make these meals week after week. Students don't register. Whoever shows up, we will feed them. Before the pandemic, we calculated that we made approximately 20 liters of soup every week. We also received help from local congregations like Scarborough United, Hope Lutheran, and Shepherd of the Hills, where they would freeze packages of soup for us so that we can defrost them and give Tim and myself a break from our weekly cooking duties. Of course, making soup for students has not been a possibility during the pandemic. And these days, a simple supper still does continue, but we say BYOS, or bring your own soup. As mentioned earlier with Tim's sharing of our Simple Chef program, developed over the pandemic, this was to fill the void of the eating together that was such a key part of our gathering. One of our faithful members, starting her first year of university a number of years ago, is Tyra. Tyra is an amazing student, not only very academically gifted, but in meeting her, you will see the warmth and joyful presence she brings to our center here. Tyra is the smiling and welcoming person people will first encounter when they come into this space. Well, at least before the pandemic. And as you will hear in a moment, she was a faithful member of our Simple Supper program. Before we moved into this new space last year, our old center had a long hallway students would need to line up to get their bowl of soup. I remember one time commenting on how she always sat in the same chair every week. Tyra would come in early to be sure she got her seat. She quickly pointed out to me that this spot was closest to the soup, which meant that she always got to be first in line when she sat in that chair. For months, Tyra was doing this, and I didn't even realize her strategy, only thinking that she must really like that chair. Well, clearly her cleverness extends beyond the classroom. And so I'm pleased to introduce to you Tyra Kenny doing her final year of her Bachelor of Science in Zoology with honors.
Hi everyone, I'm Tyra, and I am a 5th year zoology student at the University of Calgary. So to start it off, I'm going to go off on how I started with the campus ministry. When I started university, I was quite unsure of what it was all going to be like. I had a very small, close-knit community, and I was super focused on academics. And so when I was entering university, what started to worry me was being isolated. So once I got into the campus community, I started to look for different places to find community. My sister, who used to work here previously, referred me to the Faith and Spirituality Center and the campus ministry. I quickly knew that this was the perfect place for me to make my home. Not only was it filled with people like me, it was also filled with people not like me, therefore giving me the opportunity to listen and learn from different people and their experiences. One of the places I found refuge in was the Simple Supper ran by the campus ministry. Simple Supper provided a community where I could connect with people on a deeper level. Unlike super intellectualized spaces that I face on campus on the daily, it was a safe space where people of diverse backgrounds, like myself, could share matters of the heart. This was important to me, since often what I really needed wasn't advice. It was comfort, love, and care. The cries, hugs, frustrations, and joys shared over hot bowls of soup during Simple Supper were some of the best and are some of the best and most fulfilling highlights of my university career. And many of my other highlights in university were facilitated by the campus ministry as well. From making designer hot dogs at summer barbecues to learning about sustainable agriculture at Reverend Tim Ray's farm, all my experiences with the campus ministry have created a holistic and enjoyable learning environment that I couldn't get anywhere else. Being involved with the campus ministry over the last 5 years, as a volunteer and a participant, has taught me that the work of the campus ministry is an essential contributor to the well-being of students at the University of Calgary. Their work provides unique opportunities for learning and dialogue that enrich the university experience. I always share my positive experiences with fellow students, since I know that they will find comfort and joy in campus ministry programs like I have.
Thank you, Tyra. Music brings us mountaintop experiences. It's the language of the Spirit. You don't have to encourage people to have a spiritual experience through music. It just happens to them naturally. If you want to start a spiritual conversation with a youth or young adult, I find just asking what they are listening to is the way to do it, and then you listen yourself. The music they love will tell you what they love, and it will tell you who they are. Music is vital to Christianity. Christians sing. It is one of the main things we do. Christians historically all over the world have learned the stories and the teachings of their faith through hymns. We have a very intellectual religion in the United and Lutheran churches. It requires study and contemplation and prayer, which is mostly a lot of head stuff. The beauty of music, and I think the reason it's so important, is that music is not a head thing. Music is a body thing. When you make music with your body. Particularly when you sing, you're turning your whole body into an instrument. Your entire body vibrates in singing. This embodied spiritual practice is very important. It gets into your heart without the interference of your head. When I talk to the church about young adult ministry, I often find myself saying that the doorway to working in a spiritual way with younger generations is their body. I know this to be true, even though I don't entirely know why. And I struggle, as I am here, to explain why music is so effective as a spiritual medium. The church has ideas. We have 2,000 years worth of beautiful ideas. But a lot of people aren't so interested in those ideas. What they're interested in is the experience of their own bodies. Whatever the spiritual path we recommend to young adults, it can't just be head stuff. It has to be body stuff. And music is body stuff. One of the things we do in the campus ministry is to make use of the natural spiritual power of music to build community. We do this chiefly through our drumming program. At each campus, we have drums and percussion instruments for at least 40 people. The instruments come from all over the world. There are Cuban drums, South American drums, Middle Eastern drums, and of course, there are African drums. African drum circles, after all, are an appropriation of a piece of Pan-African culture. We have been doing this for over 12 years. At its height, when we were focusing on it, doing at times several drum circles a day, the drum program included well over 2,000 people per year. It was one of the best known activities on campus. We generally conduct a drum circle at U of C and Mount Royal, and we have a blast promoting the drum circle. We have played on the lawn by the train station as thousands of people stream by on a September afternoon on their way home from campus. We give workshops to staff and faculty groups and student groups. We play in the hallway during high traffic periods. We chalk the sidewalk with brightly colored signs that say, "Community Drum Circle, Beginners Wanted." The drum circle proclaims the openness that our ministry is known for. Everybody is welcome, and everybody's gift of rhythm is celebrated. The motto of the drum program is, "It's easy, it's fun, it's really loud." Music is vital to Christian ministry, and it's vital to our ministry. So many young adults who are involved in their religious or spiritual community are involved primarily in the music that animates the spiritual life of that community. So we weren't all that surprised when we hired a new team, and they turned out to be musicians. A few weeks ago, we got them together to do music for a service at Hope Lutheran, and we got together again to entertain you. Here's the video with the campus ministry band playing Draw the Circle Wide. Following this video, an auction showcase with Simon. The campus ministry band, Enoch on guitar, Simon on keyboards, Andrew on percussion, and Hillary Kemp, our vocalist. Take it away.
Draw the circle wide.
Thank you, Margaret. The campus ministry faces in two directions. On the one side, there is the post-secondary communities comprising about 70,000 students and 10,000 or so staff and faculty. We serve a population nearly the size of a medium-sized city. This population is our relentless focus. Margaret and I are acutely aware that we're amongst the very few clergy people to whom the church has given the privilege of working with this age group, which is so painfully absent from our faith communities. On the other side is the wider church, you and the community of supporters who make the ministry possible. It took over 20 volunteers and scores of donors, for example, to produce this event tonight. So what we call the wider church is the other side of the ministry. The bulk of our support, both financial and organizational, comes from there. The United Church, my church, is reorganizing. We have just gone from a 4 to a 3-tiered system, doing away with the old presbytery structure entirely. That's a big deal because the presbyteries were the most powerful body in the church. And it's a big deal to our campus ministry because in all of Canada, Calgary Presbytery was, in my estimation, the one that most fully supported its campus ministries. Chinook Winds Region, which has now taken over the reins from Presbytery, is likewise supportive of our campus ministry and the other two campus ministries within its bounds, those being in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. Kirsty Reimers-Loader is the chaplain at Medicine Hat. I know she's watching us tonight. Now, I'm a little jealous of Margaret because she has a bishop. I don't totally know what a bishop is or what a bishop does, but the title sounds really lofty and sort of godlike. So as I say, I'm a little jealous. I can't offer you a clip from a bishop, but Chinook Winds Region does have an excellent executive minister. I noticed that she has identified leadership development as a high priority for the church. One of her emphases is the Leader Shift program, which provides workshops, program development, coaching, all aimed at making sure that the church has the flexible, outward-facing, forward-thinking leadership needed at this time in Canadian life. So allow me to introduce to you Trina Duncan, Executive Minister of Chinook Winds Region, with a message for the supporters of the campus ministry.
Hello, my name is Trina Duncan, and I'm the Executive Minister for Chinook Winds Region for the United Church of Canada. It is an honor and a privilege to serve in this role and to be here today to welcome you to this fundraising effort in support of the Calgary Campus Ministry. Chinook Winds Region is an avid supporter of campus ministries and believes it to be an important part of the mission as we carry out our work in Southern Alberta. We financially support the ministry and align ourselves with its values and recognize the important role that this ministry plays in the lives of young adults as they make their first foray into independence in post-secondary education. We realize that this isn't a ministry that can be self-funding, and so your support and the support of the wider church is very, very important. When I reflect on the role of campus ministries, I often think about the ministry personnel that I have come in contact with who express their connection with campus ministries as a very important part of their call into ministry. Their faith and spiritual lives were nurtured through their contact with campus ministries and recognize that that played an important part in their decision to pursue ministry. Not all of the people who come in contact with campus ministries are going to go into ministry leadership, but we recognize that it can play an important part in the lives of people at a very important time in their lives. I want to thank Tim and Margaret for their commitment and service to this ministry. Without them, I know that this ministry wouldn't thrive in the way that it does, and their commitment and hard work is valued. I also want to recognize the volunteers who serve on the board to support this ministry and its work, and to the other staff who support this ministry as it is lived out in Calgary. This year has been a year like no other, and I'm sure that campus ministries are now even more important than they have been in the past. The region continues to support this ministry, and we are grateful for your support of this ministry. Hope you enjoy your time together this evening. Thank you.
Next, I have the pleasure of introducing a leader, pastor, and shepherd, and my bishop, Bishop Larry Korkendorfer. In Alberta and the Territories, the largest land sprawl of all the synods in the ELCIC, from Lethbridge in the south to Whitehorse and Yellowknife up north, the oversight Bishop Larry has is vast. And so for us chaplains in Alberta and Territories, we are truly blessed to have a leader in our corner who believes in the ministry chaplains at post-secondary institutions do here in Alberta and the Territories. Our synod is the largest financial contributor of campus ministry, especially in comparison to other synods across Canada. And this certainly shows with the strong presence of campus ministry within our synod. But also to look at the number of leaders in our synod and throughout who have been impacted by the work of campus ministry in their own lives. But even with the large contribution from the synod, the amount only covers the cost of a Lutheran chaplain to be present at all the campuses in Calgary at 40% time. This means that increasing the chaplain's position, hiring young adults to help with the social media and networking, and program costs are all provided by generous individual donors like yourself and occasional grants we may be eligible for that year. Every year, chaplains sit with a sense of unease and uncertainty that funding will be cut. But we have been truly blessed that this has not been the case, and our funding continues to come through the bishop's office every year. But you can see how our reliance on just one funding does not make a ministry sustainable for the long term. And for this reason, Lutheran Campus Ministry has been making a very concerted effort to raise funds beyond just our synod funding. This ministry is very fortunate to have our building and office expenses covered by the university. This means that overhead costs are minimal, and most of the donations go directly to supporting students through the programs and work chaplains do on the ground. And there has been no leader in our church who has been a bigger supporter of the work of Lutheran Campus Ministry in Calgary than who you will hear from now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Korkendorfer, and I serve as the Bishop of the Synod of Alberta and the Territories of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Canada. Thank you for the opportunity and the invitation to bring greetings to the Lutheran Campus Ministry and United Campus Ministry fundraiser this year. Our Synod is able to continue to support financially in some way at least, and some amount, some figure, the campus ministries throughout our Synod in Edmonton, Camrose, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, and of course in Calgary. You know, I don't have to tell you that you have one of the finest chaplains, if not the finest chaplain in all of Canada, in Pastor Margaret Prop. Margaret, your creativity, your sensitivity, your welcome, your hospitality to all are just a few of the gifts that you share. Through campus ministry, through the Lutherans and the United, I have seen great flexibility in this time of COVID, great ingenuity, great creativity. Thank you for things like simple suppers and gathering together for conversation through Zoom. Thank you for the retreats that we've been able to have these past many years in January at Camp Kuriakis. And thank you too, Pastor Tim, for your ministry together with the Lutherans and through the United Church on campus in Calgary. You're a wonderful team of pastors together. Although, as I said, and I'll say again, we have the finest Lutheran chaplain in Pastor Margaret, and I dare say the finest chaplain in all of Canada. Blessings to you as you gather for this fundraiser. This is an important ministry in our synod, one which I continue personally to support, and one which I was a part of as a student at Camrose Lutheran College in Camrose many years ago. I think it's an important ministry for all of us and for young adults as they journey and providing a safe place and a community where they can gather together and in trust and able to have conversations together and to grow in their own faith and whatever that journey is for them. So blessings to you as you gather for the fundraiser. This is a ministry that our synod continues to support financially and with prayers. Thank you, Pastor Margaret. Thank you, Pastor Tim. And blessings to you all.
Thanks, Simon. You always do such a great job. And thank you so much, everyone, for supporting this ministry and showing that support so generously. Well, to be a disciple is to follow someone, to take a particular path, to stick with it so that a person can eventually be like the one that they are following. For those who have chosen the path of following Christ, we would be a disciple with the intent to become more like Christ. Much of the outreach the ministry does is to enact our discipleship by imitating the love, hospitality, and inclusion that Christ extends to us. To humbly extend the grace which has been first given to us, no strings attached and no agenda. The drum circles, simple supper, women's circles, these are expressions of what we experience first through the relationship Christ has established with us. But being a disciple includes more than just having a meal together, playing music, and having a discussion. For those students who are wanting to follow the path of Christ or are already a follower and in need of a community to be in the boat with, our ministry gathers to worship, study, and equip students in their faith as followers or curious onlookers of Christ. As United and Lutheran chaplains, we bring through our training and practices that the church has entrusted us as called and ordained ministers to administer and faithfully offer the sacraments, word and sacrament. Tim and I are both strongly rooted in our call to equip people for their work in ministry. And when I say ministry, this doesn't mean becoming a pastor or a preacher. It means the work each and every one of us has been called to build up the world in love, in life, and in courage, rather than resorting to fear, death, or hatred. One of the programs that we developed and ran for a number of years was the Peer Partnership Program. It was a wonderful program that brought many young adults of faith to explore and discern their calling of their place in the world. Unfortunately, the program was much larger and administratively complicated than our capacity to sustain it for the long term, and we currently do not run it, although we are working with other partnerships to provide our student leaders with training. In the following video, Andrew, you see Mark and Andrew are twins, and Mark was initially scheduled to do the video, but at the last minute things came up at work, so who better to take his place than his twin brother Andrew. Andrew has now graduated and does work with fixing, tuning up, and even making instruments. He comes from a family of talented musicians who play for different orchestras across the country. But besides his many talents, including starting of an instrument-making company, Andrew is such a kind, caring, and thoughtful young man, always thinking about what he can do next in his quiet and gentle manner. So thank you, Andrew, for filling in at the last minute and sharing your experience of campus ministry while being a student here.
Hi, my name is Andrew Schultz. I was a part of the campus ministry and involved with the peer partnership program for many years while I attended the University of Calgary. Throughout high school, I was very active and involved with my church, attending services, volunteering, helping out with events, and providing music as well. Although once I started my university career here at U of C, I realized it's much, much more busy than high school. And I did not have as much free or flexible time to do all the volunteering and follow my faith as much as I wanted to. When I heard about the peer partnership program and campus ministry, I thought that it would be a perfect way to pursue my faith in an accessible and accessible way without having to even leave the campus. And that's perfect for us university students. I soon got to know many people involved with campus ministry and the Faith and Spirituality Center, and realized that this wasn't only a safe space for me to explore my own faith, but it's this place where we could all share our own ideas, theories, spiritualities, differences, and commonalities in this respectful way. It truly is a safe space with open-minded peers and welcoming, knowledgeable staff. When I first joined the Peer Partnership Program, I was quite surprised to find out that many of us were actually from different denominations, which helped in many ways and helped me to realize my own faith. We had many different discussions based around the differences that we all shared, but also talked and learned a lot more about each other's beliefs and how we differ. This has really helped me to solidify my own beliefs and motivations within my faith. Being a part of the Peer Partnership Program gave me the opportunity to participate in Camp Kyriakos Retreat, which is one of my favorites. Went there a couple of years and both were very, very good experiences. One of my favorite eye-opening experiences was at the Camp Kyriakos Retreat. It was called the Blanket Exercise. Now, the exercise doesn't have too much to do with my own specific faith, but opened up my eyes to the discrimination of culture, religion, and spirituality in Canada. This exercise led me to many discussions, and we all talked about the comparisons between our different faiths and provided a new outlook on how we treat those with different beliefs than our own. At Camp Kyriakos, we met many other students from campus ministries from Alberta and Saskatchewan. One of my next most memorable and fun experiences was also from the retreat, and that was the talent show. Each campus ministry group got to know each other through many laughs, magic tricks, and folk song sing-alongs. I still keep in contact with many of the people that I met there, many of my friends that I met there. It is also at the retreat where I realized how lucky we are to have campus ministry at the University of Calgary. Something that I took for granted, and I thought about this a lot at the retreat, was our contemplative worship services that we attend. I was really got thinking about this because our group led the contemplative worship service at Camp Kyriakos, and I just realized how truly meaningful it is, and how lucky we are to have such an amazing group of people to lead us through these services. To me, the contemplative worship services provided a lot of time and true mindfulness and belief. I am lucky to have had the experiences with the Faith and Spirituality Center, campus ministry, and all of my experiences in the Peer Partnership Program. And I strongly believe that it has helped me find my own faith.
You can hear from the stories of these students and the images from our programming why we love what we do. Not just because it's fun, but because it matters. The impact this ministry has on the lives of students go beyond the dinners and the drumming. Time and time again, we have heard from students how this ministry has been so critical in helping them shape their life with a sense of purpose and meaning. Sometimes our encounters with students are ongoing, 4 to 5 years and even longer, as you heard from Veronica. But there are many encounters that we don't and can't share because they are so personal in nature. The texts during the night, the walk-ins when there's no one to listen, the word of acceptance and care when it seems like when there's none to be had. And especially the words of acceptance and love God bestows upon these students. We don't need to look very far to know that there are so many words of judgment, condemnation, and even disdain for our fellow human beings. The church has been guilty of this, and unfortunately, we encounter many students where the only voice of God that they have been proclaimed is exactly that, fear. This is not the gospel. Tim and I have been called to this place to proclaim the gospel, the love that our Creator has for their beloved. We are not left to our own in the storm. Jesus comes. I don't know much about boats, but I know that you need to have different people assigned to different jobs. Someone looking after the sails, the rudder, the weather. Even in these days during the pandemic, we are needing the healthcare workers, teachers, grocery clerks, cleaners, and childcare providers, professors, the list goes on. And yes, even chaplains. But unlike many other professionals and employment, the work of chaplains are not always clear. But like those disciples in the boat, you need someone taking notice of Jesus' presence in their midst. Someone to say to all those panicking in the boat that, hey, look, it's Jesus. We're not alone. Maybe the storm won't consume us after all. We thank you for being with us tonight, for paying attention, for taking notice and caring for the work being done on campuses throughout the city. This work we do is not our own, but this work is the work of all of us in this boat together. If you have already given a financial gift to support this ministry, thank you. If you're thinking about it, please know that any gift makes a difference, because when we work together, ships manage to cross oceans, ships can weather a storm, and ships can help create refuge for those in danger. With your support, the work being done continues. With your support, the energy it takes to figure out how to fund the next program, or whether a chaplain like Tim or myself can continue to be present to the needs of students and institution, is no longer contemplated. Like the offering of the 5 loaves and 2 fish, the baskets overflow. This evening has been a clear example of this abundance. Never could we, the committees, our boards, ourselves, Tim and I, imagine the generosity of the community that surrounds us. Well, I can't believe we've come to the end of the evening, Tim.
Oh, it can't be over yet. I haven't put in my bid on that knife sharpener.
Don't worry, you still have a bit more time at the end while the musicians sing a few little songs.
This has been really a lot of fun. It's always amazing how people manage to come together to make things happen.
We'll see the credits shortly on the screen.
Some of our supporters have typed in the chat, so we know who's joined us. If you have a chance, please give us a shout out. Thanks to all of you for being here tonight and supporting this ministry and the work that we do. We had people in Montreal, Saskatoon, Lacombe, Standard, Port Alberni, Hamilton, and Regina, and of course Calgary. And so to conclude, I'll say a benediction, following which there's a clip of a ritual we do during the Simple Supper. So, my friends, receive this blessing. Go in peace, have courage, hold fast to what is good, return no one evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weary, help the suffering, and honor all creatures. Love and serve God, rejoicing in the power of the Holy Spirit. May the blessing of God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, rest upon you and walk with you all the days of your life. Amen.
Amen.
So be it. Hello, United Church folks, and
hello, Lutheran folks.
We are just finishing the Simple Supper. We have a song that we sing, and we're going to sing it together. But first of all, I'm going to sing it so that the folks at our fundraiser can learn it and sing it along with us. Because when we all sing it together, it's going to be a big train wreck. But here we go. It's to the tune of Mama's Little Baby. Every little cell in my body. Happy. Oh, let me sing it and then we'll all sing it. I don't like to cut people off, but I'm singing. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell Every little cell is happy and well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is well. They're laughing because I got the words wrong, but that's close enough. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Every
Every
little
little
cell
cell
in
in
my
my
body
body
is
is
happy.
health.
Little cell in my
Every
body
little
is
cell
in my
in my
body.
body
Little
is
cell in my
happy.
body is happy.
Every
Little
little
cell in my
cell in
body
my
is
body is well.
I'm so glad
Glad
every
every little
little
cell
cell in
in my
my body
body
is
is happy and well.
I'm
I'm
so
so
glad
glad every
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 little
little
cell
cell
in
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 my
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 body
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 is
is
happy
happy
and
and
well.
well.
Amen.
Mm.
Okay, and now we blow the candle out. Herman has the candle.
Oh.
There he is.
Okay, so by blowing the candle, we will wrap up the simple supper tonight. And thank you so much for Campus Ministry to organize such an amazing time for us to gather together, to be together, to support each other at any time. So if you guys are ready, I'll count from 3, and then we'll blow the candle out. 3, 2, and 1.